All statements and opinions expressed by guests of the Adult in the Room podcast are strictly their own and do not necessarily reflect the beliefs or opinions of the host, producers, or advertisers. All interviews are presented in their most complete possible form in the interests of free speech. No statements should be interpreted as financial, legal, or medical advice. Listener and viewer discretion are strongly advised.
It's the Adult in the Room podcast with Victoria Taft. That's me. Your news Sherpa. Reporting for duty, Victoria Taft, your adult in the room. Trying to look for transparency at a time when things are completely occluded in the news cycle. Trying to bring to light some things that maybe you haven't thought about. And, I've spent decades in the news business and the talk business. Been doing this for a long, long time, right? Over at PJ Media, an opinion website that has been around since 2005 and was one of the cool sites back in the day. And I always wanted to write over there. And so finally, a few years ago, I started doing that. So it's kind of fun. Lots of fun, but it's more fun to be with you. Got to be told. Truth got to be told. And I've enjoyed my years and days in radio. Going to be filling in Seattle coming up in a little while. And until we get a lot of folks, populated here. We got quite a few. But I wanted to play for you one thing because it is Epstein Thursday. However, and it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one. I just want to play this for you. It is the conversation between an Israeli pilot and an American pilot over Iran. Let's listen in, shall we?
Mobile 97.
Go for 97.
It is a great honor for us to fight with you. You're doing a great job.
Thank you very much. Likewise, gentlemen. Please be safe out there. Strike hard. See ya.
Mobile 97.
Go for 97.
It is a great honor for us to fight with you. You're doing a great job.
Thank you very much. Likewise, gentlemen. Please be safe out there. Strike hard.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. There was another thing in the Iran story that I wanted to bring up to date before we get into the Epstein files stuff. And in addition to that, I have an update for you on the story back that we reported on back in February that I did over in PJ Media, as well as doing a couple of live streams on it. And I talked with Tommy Boy, who's going to be with us sometime when he can get away and be with us this hour. And Tommy Boy is a gentleman who is absolutely one of the funniest people out there on the streets of Portland. He's a Trump supporter, and he goes out and he loves to antagonize Antifa. Now, you might say that's dumb, or you might not think that's a great idea. But, I mean, it's actually his story that got us throttled by YouTube a few weeks back. And now we have everybody back, but it was a long haul there for a minute. And they throttled us and they, muted us because we showed the actual video of Tommy Boy and his cohorts being shot with a gun, but it was pellet gun. And so we have an update on the story from the cops. Okay, so we're going to do that. Let's see, what else? Oh, yes, I did want one more thing. I wanted to show you one more thing, and it's this. It is this interplay between an Al Jazeera anchor and the man who's explaining what the president of Iran is now demanding of the United States. And I'll let you play through a couple of the demands that he's making. And then when you get yourself back together and get over your laughs, please. And, we'll get to the main content of the show today, but I just couldn't let this pass today because I broke out laughing. Like, I'm sorry, you're making demands? Too crazy.
Now, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has said on X that his country is committed to peace in the region, but he's also laid out what he sees as a path to de-escalation. He said the only way to end this war, ignited by the Zionist regime and the US, is recognizing Iran's legitimate rights, payment of reparations, and firm international guarantees against future aggression.
Okay, so he's demanding that. And I'm sorry, but you got to laugh. Oh, they're demanding that they can have nuclear power. Yeah, nuclear power, that's it. And pay for reparations. And get out of there, dude. You TikTok, buddy. TikTok. They may keep you alive just to have somebody with whom to negotiate, but we don't know how long that's going to last. All right. The whole drone thing on the West Coast. Nope. Somebody just blew the emergency whoop, whoop, the rape whistle on that one, and that didn't go anywhere as well. Okay, so in the Epstein Thursday, here's why Hillary Clinton trusted Ghislaine Maxwell. That's Jeffrey Epstein's paramour and or procurer, however you wish to explain it. Another career is destroyed by the Jeffrey Epstein files that have come out. A Trump and Hillary friend is now to be questioned by the House Oversight Committee. I can't wait to see how this one goes. It's going to be transcribed and it will not be videotaped. And then, as I said, 2 years ago, I talked to a gentleman who knew all of these people. Jeffrey Epstein, Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell, Donald Trump. And it came as and by the way, after I asked him a question, sort of parting question, hey, you were in the publishing business and Robert Maxwell was in the publishing business. Did you know Robert Maxwell? I just listened to it again today and I said, I have to make sure you see this today from an old version of the Adult in the Room podcast. Okay, so let's start. Let's find out another career that has been ended due to Jeffrey Epstein files. These are emails. They are requests largely for tickets from the David Copperfield act in Las Vegas at the MGM Grand. And I'm trying very desperately to get this video out of here. David Copperfield's mainstay show at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas is drawing to a close after a 25-year run. Weeks after his name again appeared in the latest batch of the so-called Epstein files. Now, are there actually Epstein files where somebody had files and then they were sort of labeled the Epstein files? No. They went through the DOJ went through all the DOJ files, went through the FBI files, and they looked for any and all things having to do with Epstein and then of course they had to get rid of, blot out the references to the victims. So that's why you see all the redactions. So anyway, poor old David, mainstay show at the MGM Grand, 25 years, and his final show will be April 30th. We thank David and his exceptional team for an incredible energy that they've consistently delivered with this larger-than-life production, said some guy you've never heard of who's the president and COO of MGM Grand. David fascinated audiences in the MGM Grand for more than 25 years, and we wish him every success. After he was revealed to be a friend of Jeffrey Epstein. Copperfield's 69, so he's not totally, I know lots of people who are, 70 plus still working, especially somebody who's probably had as much work done as David Copperfield. So anyway, so here's what I did. I said, okay, David Copperfield, what does it say about David Copperfield in the Epstein files? Well, let's go look for his name, which is what I did. And so lots of requests for tickets by Jeffrey Epstein. This is a baller, remember now. Jeffrey Epstein had more money than most people on earth. And he had a lot of money. And he kept asking for free tickets for David Copperfield tickets in Vegas. But then there was this couple of things. Here's this one file, and it's the Giuffre v. Maxwell case. Okay, this is an SDNY. This was 2015. This went apparently nowhere, but here's what I want you to see. Nothing. You can't see nothing from that file. Why is that? Why even list it? Well, probably because it mentions Virginia Giuffre. who is the person who initially sought charges against Jeffrey Epstein as well as Ghislaine Maxwell. There's another person as well, but there you are. And so because it's a victim, that has just been squashed. It's been scrubbed right out of the old Jeffrey Epstein files. These files that are just a compendium of stuff, junk, ticket requests, all sorts of things. Then we have this one I thought was interesting. I didn't go through all of the ones that have David Copperfield. As you can see, there are, let's find out how many pages. This one, page 4. They have 44 pages of David Copperfield files. Let's see. This one looks good. This is on page 44. He sent a bulletproof car to pick her up. Holy crow. What is, oh, whoa. Is this a 302? Oh, interesting. After being advised of the identities of the above listed individuals and the nature of the interview, so-and-so, whoever that is, I presume, somewhere along the line, it's David Copperfield involved here. This is a person who said she worked at somewhere, and she did not work there for long. It was her first job. She was 16 and a sophomore, and her friend told her about an opportunity to make money. Now, her friend is a woman who now claims to be a victim. I think that's the same one. I'm just seeing this for the first time. So, but I'm guessing there are a number of women who used to procure, well, a number of people, women, young women, who would procure talent, girls, and not all of them were underage, but some of them probably were. But they were mostly their contemporaries, so 16 to 18, 19. And they were asked to come to Jeffrey Epstein's mansion. He had, 3 of them? And 4 of them. Actually, he had an apartment in Paris. He had the New Mexico Zorro Ranch where he did really weird things with procreation and eugenics. He also, of course, had his Manhattan townhouse, which was the biggest townhouse, I think, in Manhattan, if I'm not mistaken, unless some sultan has come along and bested him. And then, of course, he had his island. Yeah. All right. When in high school, she did not work there for long. It was her first job. Shortly after this conversation, so-and-so was picked up at her parents' house and drove to Jeffrey Epstein's house. And this is, I'm sorry, did I forget the Palm Beach mansion? I forgot, he's 5 doggone houses. 5. They accessed the property by hitting the buzzer and going through the front gate. They entered the house through the back door by the pool area and into the kitchen. Sometimes so-and-so was greeted by, who knows, and Alfredo Rodriguez. That guy's getting raked over the coals, and maybe he knew too much. Man may have been there the first time to greet. The first time so-and-so went there, she set boundaries. She told Epstein no penetration. I cannot believe I'm reading this stuff. And so-and-so would not touch him, and there was no oral sex. There was to be limited touching and only underwear on. Epstein would hand the money, or there would be a stack of money on the sink at the end of whatever this was going to be. And so-and-so was there every day that Epstein was in town. That lasted for about 3 years. So somebody's making bank for 3 years. And they appear to be a victim of some sort. And we all know how that could happen, I suppose. But eventually, it approximately ended when the blah, blah, blah was back in college, around when she had her first Christmas break and probably thought better of this. Well, she probably aged out. Sometimes after seeing Epstein was different. They would take naps together a lot. Epstein would give money to go shopping. They would swim, and he would help her with college essays. Epstein got her a car. It was as if they were in a relationship, but blah, blah, blah was a child. She cared for him. Other women would tell so-and-so that she was one of his favorites. He would give her money for doing nothing sometimes. Sometimes a purse would just be filled with money. At first, When it started, it was just about the money. At the time, she knew that Epstein was just paying for sex acts. About 9 to 10 times, so-and-so would call her and told her that Epstein was going to be in town, and she would go to the house. And Alfredo, the house manager, would sometimes be there, and he would set up a table. And he'd go downstairs. I'm assuming the table is the massage table. And I'm going to just check to see if Copperfield has a mention in here, because we're talking about David Copper. Yes, we are. Here we go. Page 4 of the 6-page report, official report. Looks like a FBI report. So-and-so went to New York once, but Epstein wouldn't join. She was supposed to come. On the phone, so-and-so interacted with Epstein's staff in New York to schedule the trip. He sent a bulletproof car to pick her up and bring her to a friend. So-and-so stayed with his friend. That boyfriend was also there when David Copperfield was out to dinner and wanted to give so-and-so a loan. Copperfield had blank be his assistant for a show and was invited backstage. Blank knew what was going to happen, so she invited her boyfriend. So-and-so would tell people that she was Epstein's personal assistant and would schedule phone calls. The first interaction with Ghislaine Maxwell was while standing in his kitchen. Blank could feel the disdain. Blank was with Epstein for a while before meeting Maxwell. Blank knew Maxwell through articles that she read about her, and she was impressed with Maxwell before they ever met Maxwell. And you'll be impressed with Maxwell, too, in some form or fashion, and I'll tell you why, because Hillary Clinton was impressed by her, as she told in her discussion, her deposition with the Oversight Committee. Was it last week? When we went over, maybe slightly more than a week and a half ago, and we played most of that for you last week, but we're going to reprise a couple of things because I want you to hear what she had to say about Ghislaine Maxwell again to refresh our memories. All right, so we go here, and I believed it was around Christmas time. She was hightailed it out of there when the police came. There was no conversation at the house. What were the police doing there? Okay, hold on. Oh, Blank was Epstein's sex slave. Blank told somebody else that was a girlfriend of Epstein's, and Blank heard that a sum of money was paid to parents to make her a model. Blank was not sure who told her this. She was very loyal to Epstein. Learning that Blank was only a little bit older than her, she now feels for the person. Things that she did were unconscionable. Blank felt that someone deserves something to happen to her. So-and-so had sex with someone, was 16 and did not know better. Blank wanted to please Epstein. Blank blames her for her actions. She was part of him and went everywhere he went, would coordinate for herself. She would contact Blank for herself. Sometimes Blank would set up appointments and so-and-so would be there. These are all redacted, so these all refer to people either who have, I was going to say haven't been charged, but that doesn't really make any difference because there are names of people who haven't been charged in here who've done nothing wrong. That's the problem with the Epstein files. You display an ocean of forms out there in the middle of the interwebs. It's all searchable. Thank you, Pam Bondi. And so people make all kinds of conclusions, not necessarily based on facts. I believe I know the person who's being discussed here, and it's one of the persons who now claims to be a victim, and claim that as an adult after there were millions to be made. I'm just stating the truth. That's what happened. Okay. So so-and-so believed that it was around Christmas when she hightailed it out of there. When the police came, there was no conversation at the house. Sometime playing around spring break or summer vacation, another girl, possibly Blank, called. So-and-so knew she was on a three-way, referring to a phone call. This girl asked weird questions and asked if she talked to police. And so did talk because the police kept coming around. And she said to blank that she just wants to know if she talked and said she would be taken care of. So-and-so was a nervous wreck. She was scared of Epstein. She told that she was supposed to call and say if she didn't do that, talk that blank would be taken care of. And they would take care of her. Understood that they was Epstein. He would give money if she shut up. Epstein lawyers and investigators showed up at wherever this was when she worked there, pretended to be shopping. This was before she started college, but after high school. Epstein did not set up the job. College was more important to her. She saw the problem Epstein was having with the police, and she did not want to be involved. So this is the incident. Boy, this is pretty, woo! That David Copperfield was involved in. And he wasn't there for all the drama, but he was mentioned in this very dramatic document. Otherwise, there were other people involved. And those other people were, well, here's who's going to be deposed next. Howard Lutnick, who is the Commerce Secretary for the Trump administration, and Pam Bondi. I can't even imagine what Pam Bondi is going to be asked about, except how come you didn't release everything? You know what's really annoying about this whole thing? In so many respects, if people are demanding certain things be revealed, when the attorneys for the victims don't want those certain things revealed. And so because of the Epstein Transparency Act, those things aren't going to be revealed. They're not. And yeah, dude got betrayed all right. Yeah, I'd say. Yeah, that's true. She's guilty. She does more than Epstein. She got, did she get the young girls? She needs to be in a proper jail, not at a country club, as refers to Ghislaine Maxwell. A lot of people feel that way, don't you? Claims to be a victim. Yeah. No, I'd say that claims to be a victim is an accurate way of saying it. I know people get very upset because you believe all women. Well, what if the woman was part of the conspiracy, which she was initially? That's why Palm Beach police went after her. And I think we can all agree that a woman, here's the deal, she was beguiled. That's not against the law, but it's against the law if she uses that connection to what's the right word here? To bring other people into it. That's a problem. That's breaking the law. So the laws have been suspended, I suppose, for some of these Epstein victims. Other Epstein victims are, have no idea. Are they even there? I mean, did they have evidence to support it? I don't really know. That's good enough for the plaintiff's attorneys who have decided to file lawsuits against his estate. In addition, most of the money is coming from the banks that did business with Jeffrey Epstein. And so that's where millions of dollars is coming from. Okay. So fair enough. All right. So there's that. So David Copperfield's career is over. I mean, I hope he's saved because dudes go down. She lured them in. Yeah, well, that's a good way to put it. Okay, let me check this. Josh has put up this data set. I'm going to see. I can't use that as a live link. And I can't cut and paste that bad boy or copy and paste it. So can you send it to me? Let's see, where would I have you send that? Victoria at victoriataft.com. And I'll look it up. I'd love to look at that. So-and-so says, what's her name? She made her bed, now she can lie in it. Well, there you go. I mean, she's not going to lie in it. Are you talking about Ghislaine Maxwell? Yeah, she's absolutely lying in a bed on a country club prison. Okay. So David Copperfield, see ya. Bye-bye. Now, let us move toward our next beat while we're waiting for Tommy Boy. Tommy Boy might be coming in mid-Epstein report. I don't want to do it that way, but I want to get him when I can. Okay, so All right. So we're going to dive a little bit more into the Ghislaine Maxwell connections and that sort of thing. And we're going to do it by entree of Hillary Rodham Clinton, where she's talking about, let's see, I want to make sure I get this right, the TikTok of this right. This looks like, yeah, this might be the Howard Lutnick thing. Howard Lutnick has been asked to testify in front of the House Oversight Committee. He's absolutely one of the good guys here, but he's doing it anyway. Now, I'm sure that dude has done things that are probably not the best in his whole life. He did go to Epstein Island with his wife and kids, and he did it after he said he had cut off relations with, discussions or anything having to do with Jeffrey Epstein. And his old college, Haverford College, which is where Howard Lutnick went, and has given $65 million over the year. His old college is wondering, what the heck, man? Howard Lutnick is in the Epstein files. What now? And this headline is perfect. This headline is perfect for a college newspaper to ask because it actually reflects the intelligence of a lot of people who just assume that because so-and-so's mentioned in the Epstein files that he must be a kid diddler. And no, not really. Not even close, okay? What now? Should we give all of his money back? What should we do? Billionaire, businessman, and mogul, Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick's class of 83 is among the high-profile figures recently revealed to have been in the communication with Jeffrey Epstein. And on Friday, January 30, the U.S. Department of Justice released millions of new documents from the Epstein files, in addition to ones that have just been released here recently, this week, I guess, proving that Lutnick and Epstein had been in communication for years after Epstein was convicted of soliciting prostitution from a minor in 2008. Would you want to have anything to do with the guy after that? No, you wouldn't. And it's a bad business, and you can just ask Larry Summers, the former Treasury Secretary under Barack Obama. You could ask Barack Obama's general counsel, who's a woman, who called Jeffrey Epstein Uncle Jeffrey because before she went out into public life or non-public life, civic life, she was given $10 million spiff from Jeffrey to apparently rewrite a law so that it would benefit him and his people, after his people being his clients, after she left office. Okay, so yeah, sometimes it doesn't work out. Okay, and I just don't think anything. I think nothing should happen to Howard Lutnick, as far as I can tell. Howard Lutnick and his wife and kids went to Epstein Island because Jeffrey Epstein asked them. He was on his yacht. Billionaires. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein has a island yacht. Howard Lutnick has a yacht. And he and his wife and kids were on board, and he wanted them to come for lunch, and they came. Various documents from 2011 allude to meetings and calls between Epstein and Lutnick. In November and December of 2012, Lutnick exchanged emails with Epstein and his assistants to plan a little visit to Little St. James, Epstein's privately owned island. A message forwarded from Epstein by his assistant to Lutnick after the arranged date says, "Nice seeing you." In 2017, Epstein donated to a Wall Street dinner honoring Lutnick. Well, what's Lutnick supposed to do about that? There's nothing. Oh, no. He gave him money. Grow up. 2018, they communicated in construction plans across the street from their neighboring homes. There are, say, for example, 2 solid pages of data. I mean, they're full pages in the documents about Howard Lutnick that talk about Jeffrey Epstein's improvements to his house. And the only reason Howard Lutnick's name's there is because he's using someone for the job that Howard Lutnick used for his. I mean, this is the kind of stuff people, there must be something terrible. Well, now check it out now. I'm not gonna, yank your chain or anything, but here's this item in the SDNY case against Epstein. And this is reference to a whistleblower who came to the FBI and said Howard Lutnick had done money laundering while at via BGC Financial and Cantor Fitzgerald. Here's what Hillary Clinton said about her connection with Howard Lutnick. And I want to make sure I get, this is Maxwell. Okay, cool. I'll just do that. Here's Lutnick. Listen. And we're going to find out together if you can hear the information here. You can't even say it. Hold on, I want to make sure you can hear it, see it.
To your
I have two more questions, then we're going to pass it to Congresswoman Luna. After Jeffrey Epstein was convicted, did it concern you at all that you had taken a substantial amount of money from Jeffrey Epstein?
That's an inappropriate assumption. I did not take a substantial amount of money from Jeffrey Epstein. So far as I know, Jeffrey Epstein contributed to the joint committee that was supporting my Senate race.
Which was how much?
I believe I was told $20,000.
And you don't consider $20,000 substantial?
I do not consider it relevant to me because I had no recollection that I ever knew that he gave any money to the joint committee.
So you didn't talk to your donors that gave $20,000 to your campaign?
My understanding of the rules back then is that there was no coordination between the committee and the campaign. So, no, I have no recollection.
But that doesn't mean you can't speak to your donors. That doesn't prohibit, the law does not prohibit you speaking to donors.
But I didn't know he was a donor. As far as I knew, he was not a donor until I learned this in preparation for the testimony.
Did it concern you at all that Ghislaine Maxwell was heavily involved with people you knew and were close to?
I knew people that I knew her. Yes, that's true.
And you just shrugged, you didn't want to look into it or have any question about it?
Until her crimes were revealed and she was indicted and tried and convicted, I don't think people knew very much about at all what she was doing.
And then how do you know Howard Lutnick?
I know Howard Lutnick because when I was senator on 9/11, the firm he headed, Cantor Fitzgerald, suffered the greatest loss of life. As I recall, something like 650 of his employees were murdered by terrorists that day. Howard Lutnick missed being a victim because he was delayed dropping his child off to kindergarten. You asked the question. I'm going to answer your question.
Now you're going to yell
This
at
was
me?
what I spent
You're
my
going to yell at
time
me.
doing.
I'm a survivor trying to look out for other
Well,
survivors trying to
and
get to the
I
bottom
was
of it.
taking care
You
of
waited
the
6
people
months
who
to
lost
get here today.
3,000
6 months,
lives
and now you're being
at World
defiant
Trade
and
Center.
indignant today.
You asked me
I have
about
met
Howard
with Epstein
Lutnick.
survivors. I'm a survivor myself. You have emails. You've denied that Jeffrey Epstein, that you tried to get Jeffrey Epstein to give money to you.
I did
but
not.
Howard Lutnick was
If
used
you
to
have an
get
email
money.
with me asking Jeffrey
I
Epstein
have
for
an
money,
email from Howard Lutnick sending it to Jeffrey Epstein and his people to
I
raise
don't-
money for
I don't
you
know about-
for an event, an intimate event for you at his offices
Well,
at Cantor Fitzgerald. You're
look,
going to sit
if
here
you-
today
if you would let me finish.
obfuscate and say to this committee, you didn't try to get money from Jeffrey
I didn't.
Epstein when
I
there was
didn't.
an intimate event in an email that Howard Lutnick emailed to Epstein's people and Epstein to get him to come to your intimate event at Cantor Fitzgerald, a very small event. And so I'm not going to public. You want to yell at me, that's fine, but I'll yell right back.
Well,
okay? I am looking out for
it's
survivors.
very-
I'm doing
look.
the job that you would not do and refuse to do as Secretary of State.
Oh, okay.
which
I'm
I
going
have
to
the right
finish answering
do.
the question. No, you're
I
not,
am
actually.
very
Well, we did play most of
sympathetic
this,
to
okay?
your-
So we're going to stop sharing this. All right. And, you know, I do appreciate that Hillary had known what Nancy Mace had gone through and had seen her. You know, it's amazing how she knew so much about Nancy Mace and yet did not know much about Jeffrey Epstein. Here's the reason I bring it up. It's because she says Ghislaine Maxwell, and I'm going to share that piece of it. Ghislaine Maxwell was a person of means, obviously. She was a person who also had a lot of, she was very well known in social circles. And yeah, so much for the 33,000 emails. Yeah. If you keep calling people pedos, I'm never going to put your comments up, you guys. I mean, why are you doing that? You don't know. So here we go. Ghislaine Maxwell, according to Hillary Clinton and according to the world, spoke before the United Nations in, I think it's 2014. Check it out. She is talking. I want to make sure I can share this tab. Make sure. How come I can't get this tab? I'm going to double check and see if I can. Oh, I know what I did. I undid. Oh, God. Sometimes, Oh, dear. Here we go. Okay. Hold on, guys. I think I just undid the whole thing. So hold on just a sec. Share screen. Let's do it, guys. We can do it. Here. Perfect. Let's go. Ghislaine Maxwell at the United Nations back in the day. Watch this.
I'm going to invite the person who has been the inspiration behind the Sustainable Oceans Alliance, who really has something called Terramar Project. She controls the oceans around the world. If you were to look at the website, you have the opportunity to buy up parts of the ocean through her. And really, the Sustainable Oceans Alliance came together at the insistence of one person who is in the room. I don't know, I have to look for him. His name is Stephen Taft. Where is Stephen? Oh, Stephen, please get up. Stephen has been a passionate person behind the Oceans Alliance saying we need to do something. And he got us together, Ambassador Beck and I, and with Ghislaine Maxwell, and we set up the Oceans Alliance. And we are very grateful to Stephen for his support.
Thank you, Stephen. Can we talk
And
to
therefore,
Ghislaine now?
I invite my dear friend, Ghislaine Maxwell, to tell us how we can own the oceans. You have 3 seconds. Thank you. Please.
I'll do my best. First of all, Your Excellencies, Presidents, Lords, ladies and gentlemen, I just would like to thank you so much, and it's such an honor to be here. I'm here representing civil society. My passion for the ocean, for those of you, there's a slideshow going up there, so you don't just have to hear me, you can see the pictures as well. Started when I was a little girl. I grew up watching Jacques Cousteau on TV and became mesmerized with the oceans. It led to me becoming a deep worker submersible pilot. And ultimately, on one of my first dives, when I went down expecting to see a fish, I switched on the lights at the bottom of the ocean and saw a plastic hanger. It was in that moment, actually, that I decided that I really wanted to focus my attention on the ocean. And the area of the ocean that I chose to focus on was the high seas, which we've discussed so much here today. But for those of you who don't know, it represents 45% of our planet. And by the way, that 45% of the planet belongs to each and every one of you here, because it is our global commons. Under UNCLOS, it is ours. It belongs to each and every one of us, and the assets belong to us too. And I didn't know that when I started the history. The history of this started in 533 AD under Emperor Justinius, whips through the Magna Carta. Of course, I have to give a nod to England, and then ends up in 1982 at the Law of the Sea Convention. This area, our commons, are under peril for many reasons. One of the areas that of interest that I'm sure many of you are aware of is the shrinking ice of the Arctic. This is an Arctic map, and you can see the little white bits, which are the high seas areas that will remain. The ice is melting, the Northern Passage is opening. This will just be one of the areas that need to be discussed and focused on in the time to come.
Oh, good. She was a global warmist.
What's the point of why should we really care about the ocean? So 90 million tons of fish caught a year, and about a third of the fish harvested are used to feed livestock. What that means is we're feeding that to our chickens so that they can taste more like fish. unsustainable fishing practices. This is just an example of that. We're so clever as a species that we have advances in extractive technologies. This is a sort of map, or picture, if you will, of one of the largest fishing nets in the world that can contain 12 Boeing 747s, which is pretty big. The World Bank quotes, poor ocean management leads to approximately $50 billion in lost revenue annually. This is the actual tuna that was sold last year for $1.7 million. And I want to come to...
Okay, so that's Ghislaine. Now I'm going to go over to her TED Talk because I don't know about you. Do you really want to hear all this? I don't. I don't want to hear all of that. I just want you to hear her voice. I want you to see how she's received. Here is her TEDx talk. We'll give you a little flavor of this.
Global ocean community. I'm going to change that on you, and I'm going to leverage technology to create a new country. Now, I know I speak with a funny accent, and so yes, I did say country, not company. So, with that, I'm the founder of an internet project called the Terramar Project. It's an ocean-based digital platform which I'm going to be talking to you about. I just want to go back briefly to talk to you about why I got involved in the ocean, and because I think it's important to have history. So I started diving when I was 9, having become passionate about the ocean, watching Jacques Cousteau on TV. And it led to a lifelong exploration around the ocean that ultimately ended with me becoming a deep worker submersible pilot. On one of my first submarine dives, I was absolutely...
Show of hands. Who knew that Ghislaine Maxwell was a submersible pilot and piloted these little submarine deals? Me neither.
So excited. I thought, my goodness, I'm going to see a new sea creature. I'm going to be this amazing explorer. And off I was. I went down into the deep, and I went down to over 1,500 feet. And at 1,500 feet, I switched on the lights, hoping to see a new mythical sea creature. But in fact, what I saw was a plastic hanger. I was so absolutely devastated, but it was at that moment that I realized that I was really going to dedicate the rest of my life to taking an involvement with and bringing an education around the ocean. So I just want to ask everybody here a quick question. If I told you that you own something versus rent it, would you care for it more, look after it more if you owned it than if you didn't own it? Please, if you think that you'd look after something more if you owned it, raise your hand.
She is now going to outline, and I'm not going to play the whole thing, but outline a plan to buy the ocean. I'm not kidding.
Well, I think that's about 100%. So the good news is that I want to tell you that you actually own 45% of the planet. So let's quickly just look at this map. 71% of the planet is ocean. 64% of that ocean lies outside of any single country's jurisdiction. And under the law, that 64% of the ocean belongs to each and every one of you in this room. It's called your global commons. So the assets of that 64% are yours. The fish, the oil, the gas, the diamonds. Now, this part of the world is just becoming is just coming into focus. Think about the Malaysian plane that went missing. Think about endless hours on CNN and TV and every news network that focused on this area as they were looking for the plane. Every day we heard, we found the plane, we found the plane, we found some piece of garbage floating, and it turned out, in fact, no, it wasn't the plane, it was just some ocean trash. Today, if you open your newspapers, the front page of your newspapers are focused on clashes between China and the Philippines.
Okay, so there she is, Ghislaine Maxwell. She's referred to by Hillary as somebody that she wanted to partner in her organization, the Clinton Global Initiative, and their Clinton Foundation things, because Ghislaine Maxwell was a friend of Jeffrey Epstein's, and Jeffrey Epstein was very, very wealthy. And as we talked about it was a week and a half ago. He was wealthy because he managed, for a variety of reasons. He was probably a arms dealer and helped with the folks who are some good and bad actors. And so that's what he did, and he helped finance that because we understand that, everybody's got to have money to do your CIA projects or your Mossad projects or what have you. And so, she's dating this dude, and she's procuring women for him, or girls, or whatever. We know that started out with, we had one victim, then it grew to, we thought 3 dozen possibly by the Palm Beach police, remember, and now there's over 1,000 victims, allegedly. And victims aren't necessarily someone who is predated upon individually by Jeffrey Epstein or, trafficked or what have you. We don't know. We don't know how many of those people are out there. They are only, though, those who are represented by attorneys like David Boies, et cetera, who have sued the banks with which Jeffrey Epstein did business. Okay, so I just want to give you a little flavor. This is what Hillary Clinton saw, knew, et cetera, when she was consorting with Ghislaine Maxwell. She saw her at the UN. She invited her to the Global Initiative, or people invited her to the Clinton Global Initiative, and all that stuff. And so, this is the milieu in which they resided. Okay. So I'm not chewing my tongue. Is somebody else doing that? And I just missed it. I'm not doing that. Okay. So against all this, we have Pam Bondi, Howard Lutnick are all going to testify, which is fine. That's going to happen very soon. But what I wanted to show you was a video that from the Adult in the Room podcast from 2 years ago. And I have thought a lot about maybe bringing this back to discuss. But I listened to it again and watched it again today, and I go, I think that this is worth putting back on to give you an idea of the milieu in which these people ran. And he was on Conrad Black, Lord Conrad Black, was on the Adult in the Room podcast. And he'd written a book about Donald Trump. And he was I looked up his background and that sort of thing, and knew he'd gotten in trouble with the law. And it stemmed from his publishing empire in Canada. I knew he was a member of the House of Lords, and publishing House of Lords. And as I'm supposed to be letting him go from this interview 2 years ago, I said, hey, by any chance, did you know Robert Maxwell? And that led to a very interesting conversation. And just listen to this. Okay. Come on, we can do it. Political and Strategic History of the World, Volume 1, From Antiquity to the Caesars, 14 AD. And I know we got to go, but was there anything that surprised you? No, of course.
Which will take us right up almost to the American
Hold
Revolution.
on, yours truly. I went back to re-listen to it, and then I didn't reset it. So just hold on a second. I want to make sure I get the timing correct so we don't have to go through all this. Okay. What is this? Oh, that's right. Bill Barr testified last August. So we're going to go through a little bit of that. Let's see here. 104. There we go. 104.45. Boom. This is actually worth listening to, and I apologize for making you wait. Go. Asked for. You've come across some pretty interesting and notorious figures, heroes and villains in your time. as in all of the things you've done and in your newspaper life. Did you ever come across Robert Maxwell?
Knew him well.
Really?
Yes.
Is it true in your estimation that he was a CIA or a Mossad guy?
Not CIA. I think he would have certainly cooperated with Mossad if asked. He was, in my opinion, a sincere Jew and a sincere supporter of Israel.
He's buried in Jerusalem.
Yes, yes. On the Mount of Olives, I believe.
Wow. So you knew him. So you didn't, he's made out to be a real bad individual. And...
Well, you couldn't believe a word he said. But he was a colorful character. I mean, I sort of liked him in a way, but he was a scoundrel. I mean, complete scoundrel. He before I knew him, and the reason he became so notorious was he arranged a contract to supply school books.
Now we're talking about Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell's dad. So just keep that in mind.
To a major province of the country of Nigeria. So these school books were delivered, and they were blank books. They had no printing in them. But there were obviously some complaints about this. But he'd given one assumes a bribe to whoever signed the deal on the other side, and he became frightfully self-righteous and said, "Oh, it's rubbish. It's all some mistake somehow, And I mean, he was an egregious character, but he was very amusing, I must say. I mean, I remember. May I tell a little story about him?
Please do.
He had what he called his council house, which in England is a house owned by the municipality. You get really like assisted housing. You say, like poor people might live in it. So he had this very large house just outside the university city of Oxford, and it was technically owned by the regional council of Oxfordshire, but on a long lease. You say, I mean, he had a long lease on it. So he invited me up to dinner, and in his dining room, all of one wall was a very elaborate dinner service, obviously extremely fine porcelain. So towards the end of proceedings, I said, well, there must be a story to the dinner service there. He said, yes, there is. At the end of World War II, I was in the, he was a captain. They always called him Captain Bob, you see. I was a captain and in the British zone of Berlin. So I would go around with some of my lads and we would requisition things. I said, you mean pillage? And he said, well, yes. As if I was, but I said, the fact that your orders didn't allow for that would not be a real impediment then, Bob. He said, look here, the Nazis murdered my parents. I didn't give a damn what the orders were. I was going to take what I wanted from the goddamn Germans. I said, oh, that's fine. So one fine day, they were extracting this dinner service from a rather grand house in the suburb of Berlin. And unknown to us, we had ventured into the French zone. So a French colonel arrived and said to me, what are you doing, Captain, in French? And I replied in French, and he put it in French, but I'm from Quebec, so I speak French, so I could get what he was doing, you see. And he said, well, I'm just taking this dinner service, requisitioning it. He said, well, you're in the French zone, Captain, so I suggest you put it back. And Bob said, Colonel, I think I have a better idea. Why don't you designate someone and we will divide it in half, and I will take care of one half and the rest will be delivered to your attention anywhere you want in the Western 3 Allied zones. The colonel said, I think that's an excellent idea. I mean, to Bob, this was just normal business, you see. But the way he said it, the air of absolute entitlement with which he described a fairly serious breach of orders, which he could have actually been. I mean, I doubt if they would have court-martialed him, but they certainly would have reprimanded him. And getting reamed out by Field Marshal Montgomery wouldn't have been any fun, believe me.
No.
He just, this is how it goes. He was He was a scoundrel, but I sort of liked him. But he was dangerous. I mean, he kept starting these publications, and we printed one for him. And I said, "Look, Bob, we're not printing one copy of this paper unless we get paid in advance with a certified check." He said, "Perfectly fine, absolutely." So this was all understood. And he invited me to the opening party up at the Mirror House and slightly north of central London. And so I went, and the whole ground floor of the building was laid out like a kind of...
Now, you understand that Robert Maxwell ran a lot of the tabloids in London during the heyday of the 90s and 80s. He was a multi-gazillionaire with ties to the Mossad. And he knew Conrad Black knew him. Okay? And so he's giving us a little bit of a taste on what Robert Maxwell was like. But then he gets into a dinner that he hosted with some interesting people.
Circus, you had palm readers and, fortune tellers and all this stuff, and all kinds of things like this. And those things you get at a amusement park, you shoot and knock the thing down and all that sort of stuff. And the guy gets it done. It was kind of fun. It was nice, So he eventually came over to me, grabbed me by the shoulder and said, "You're not printing me." I said, "Of course I'm not printing. I've told you 20 times I'm not printing anything until I get paid." I said, "Don't confuse me with the Minister of Education of Nigeria." He said, "You shouldn't say that." He got for himself, right? He said, all right. If you're going to be a complete chiseler. I'm a chiseler wanting to
chiseler for asking to get paid.
So
this is after Robert Maxwell printed books for Nigeria. It was just a contract here. We have lots of money. We're going to pay you to print these books, and they were empty. They were blank books for education purposes. Wow.
Formed into this little tent where some woman was trying to read somebody's palm, you see, and he said, get out of here, you." And the tent was shaking, and the card table almost collapsed. And he said, all right. And he wrote out a check and said, "There you are, blood money." I mean, blood money. I'm printing his newspaper. All I want is to get paid. A bully like that could be dangerous. I could say, shove it, Bob. I don't give a damn what you. But a lot of people couldn't. The day that he, his private properties, personal property like hats and walking sticks and things, were being auctioned, Rupert Murdoch phoned me, and he said, "I'm just phoning you to celebrate the fall of Maxwell." And I said, "Rupert, I feel badly about him being found floating around Biscayne Bay and seeing his private property auctioned like this." And Rupert said, "Well, I don't. You didn't have to deal with that son of a bitch for 20 years like I did. He was the biggest crook I ever saw." And this is awful, but the front page of the Murdoch's tabloid paper, The Sun, when he died?
With all the girls?
Yeah, well, they're in page 3. Yeah, but the cover was they had a picture of Maxwell when he was recovered from the water. So the dye was out of his hair; it was all white hair like mine, and it was this picture, and he owned the Daily Mirror, and the headline. Murdoch's a genius at these things. The headline was "Mirror, Mirror on the Wall, who's the biggest crook of all?" And that was Rupert's farewell to Bob. It was a rough league. But as I say, I found him a character, and I kind of enjoyed him, but he was dangerous, and he was dangerous, a bad man. But I liked his wife, and I know Ghislaine, and I knew 2 of the boys. They were very nice, all of them. I think Ghislaine was shafted. I think it was an awful sentence she got.
I mean, you're not going to get anybody to agree with you on that, do you think?
I don't think I will, but that's not my point. I call it as I see it. Look, I'm not saying that she didn't do bad things, and if she did, obviously there's a penalty for them. I'm not trying to say if she knowingly was procuring underage girls for Jeffrey, that is a bad thing. I don't
Absolutely.
think waffling on that issue, but where they use money seized from Jeffrey's estate to pay for women to come in as witnesses who haven't uttered a peep for 15 years, and with on denunciation only, with no other evidence, claim that Ghislaine did various things. I'm not convinced that is a just conviction. That's all I'm saying. And I think if it was a just conviction, it's an over-sentencing. What did they give her, 20 years?
20 years.
That's excessive. Ghislaine doesn't deserve 20 years in prison. I have no standing to dispute that she did what she's been convicted of. I just think it wasn't a perfect conviction, but 20 years is too much.
I
hope she gets it reduced, you know?
I hope for
I mean, is anyone really going to object if it comes down to, say, 8 years? That's a long time for someone to be in prison, you know?
Well, do you think Jeffrey Epstein killed himself? You think he killed himself?
50-50, I'd say. I certainly wouldn't, from what I've seen of, what I saw was the Federal Bureau of Prisons, and that, he was in the New York House of Corrections there. But from what I've seen of those people, and all this testimony about the cameras being off and people forgetting to look in on them for 6 hours and so on, it would not surprise me in the slightest if he was murdered. But and it does surprise me a bit that Jeffrey would do that, because he had a good lawyer. And, you know, if you're going to do that, do it after you've lost the case, not before. But Alan Dershowitz, who acted for him, thought that he did, in fact, commit suicide. So I have no standing to say, but I'd only say that it would not surprise me if he was murdered.
What was that all about? What was the whole thing about?
We never knew anything about that part of it. Whenever we saw them, that they were sort of an attractive couple, frankly, and you know, I was just a rich guy and his girlfriend, and I never knew anything about young girls around. I mean, he invited us to his island, but we didn't go. That's not I don't want to sound like an old dowager here, but my wife and I wouldn't want to do it. You know, yeah, I'd rather, you know, sit in my house in Palm Beach and read a book or something, you know. But I guess he had this thing for young women, and I guess there's no doubt that he brought in relays of them. And as far as I know, it's never been alleged that there was coercion. So you get into this fine line of at what point should he have known that they were underage, or at what point should his methods of persuasion...
This is Lord Conrad Black, who got himself into legal problems with the sale of the holdings of his publishing companies that he owned in Canada, and some of them were in the United States. And he was sentenced to prison. And then two of the major crimes against him were overturned by the U.S. Supreme Court, because once again, we had a very, very frisky DOJ going after certain individuals. And so I talked to him about a book that he'd written about Donald Trump. And I said, before he went, because we were done with our interview, and I go, one more thing. And this is what he told me.
They've been moderated, and at what point they became completely improper. I mean, I think you've got a lot of fine judgment there, but I think the long and short of it is, it was a very shabby, nasty business. I mean, it's just again, I don't want to sound like a 94-year-old
right
prude, but you just don't take advantage of young girls.
Of course
but
not.
Legally underage or not, you know. I mean, a rich man like that could knock any, 90% of young women off their feet, you know, even if they're of legal age to of consent, and you just don't do it. I mean, I'm the old school. I'm a gentleman. I wouldn't have anything to do with that. But now the poor old Duke of York has taken a hit here. He wouldn't have anything to do with that.
Prince Andrew, he comes to the defense of Prince Andrew here.
I think so. Really?
Sorry?
No, I just, I feel, you don't think Prince Andrew had anything to do with that?
I don't think he knew there was anything improper going on. Look,
So
he's in the royal family. They're never exposed to anything like this. So he thought, here's a rich American. He owns his own island. This is great.
Now look, this is his perspective. He hung out with these guys. He didn't know any of this stuff was going on. That's a story. And I know, does anybody want to see what he says about the dinner?
I'm an unattached man overseas in discreet circumstances.
Oh, he's not a dirty man.
I mean, I think he didn't
That's
think
what he
through,
thinks.
but he was guilty of a lapse of taste and a lapse of judgment. There's no possibility in my mind that the Duke of York had anything approaching the mens rea required for criminal conviction, the intent to commit a crime. He had none of that. Jeffrey, I wouldn't be so sure. Ghislaine, I wouldn't be so sure, though. Look, frankly, the thing I don't understand about her is that once she saw what they did to Jeffrey, but I have to say, I'm sorry to interrupt myself here, but he made his deal in Florida, and that was a deal for the whole federal system, and they reneged on that deal. Now, maybe the deal made in Florida that Dershowitz negotiated for him, and that guy, I believe, was deemed ineligible to continue as Secretary of Labor because of his performance as a prosecutor. Maybe they shot their bolt too soon and too cheaply. I don't know that, but having committed themselves, just how suave is it for the government of the United States to do a complete 180 here and to smash his door down and drag him off his plane when he lands, and then he commits suicide? I mean, I don't think it's any thundering day of triumph for your justice system there either. But what I was going to say, what amazes me about Ghislaine is she saw what happened to Jeffrey. It was long after they parted company, and she was a citizen of the UK and France, and she could have gone and she had enough money to do it, obviously. I mean, she lived quite well where she was up in New England. She could have gone to France and lived there, and the French will not extradite any French citizen on a criminal charge. And so she'd be, sitting in the Tour d'Argent having a glass of champagne right now, instead of in Sing Sing or whatever the hell she is. It'd be some woman's prison. I don't know which one. But no, it's too bad. The whole thing is too bad. It was very sad, the whole thing.
There's some school of thought, and I know that there are people who believe this ardently, that there's just this whole cabal of people who take advantage of young kids, and Jeffrey Epstein.
Jeffrey was fronting the whole thing, and that he extorted blackmail from them, and that's where his money came from. Yeah, he not that kind of money, not $600 million. You don't extort $600 million on that sort of thing. But I mean, I think there is ample reason to believe that bad things happened. I am not trying to whitewash it. Please don't misunderstand that.
No. No, I understand about the prosecution and that they paying witnesses and that sort of thing.
I'll tell you one very short story.
Unseemly.
I do have to go, actually, but we had a guest book in our house in Palm Beach, and I have it here now. And I was looking up something a couple of months ago.
Here's the dinner.
I got to this dinner where the guests sign on the way out, you see. So there was Melania Knauss, as she then was, Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, Terry Allen Kramer, Allen and Company, the merchant bank, and her man, Nick, and Arnaud de Bourschgrave. Do you remember him?
No, I don't.
He was the editor of the Washington Times, and before that, Paris
okay.
editor of Newsweek. Great journalist, a very learned man, and his wife Victoria. So I said, look, to my wife Barbara, I said, look, unfortunately, Arno is dead, Terry is dead, Nick is dead, Victoria has vanished, Jeffrey is dead. We know about Ghislaine. Next to Donald and Melania, we're the success story of this dinner.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty much the way we left it. Yeah, really interesting. Really interesting story. I just wanted to revisit it because I like to, as a reporter for all these years, I like to go back and I want to know why I'm supposed to believe what I'm supposed to believe. I want to know. I don't want somebody to just tell me. I appreciate that as long as I trust their judgment. But if I don't, I can't do that. I have to do my own homework. And that's a flaw. And it's also a blessing. And so that's why I wanted you to see this, because there are people in that universe who did not know that guy was as bad as he was. This guy's been in prison already, okay? And we talked about the kinds of people he met in prison. He met some dons and that sort of thing. Pretty interesting. And that's Conrad Black. You can go back and check it out. It's in one of the March 2024 episodes of the Adult in the Room podcast. Now, there's another story that has just been weighing on my heart for a long time, for the last month or so. I'm a long time I guess it's a relational, just a perspective. And it stems from this. It's a story that got me throttled by YouTube. And I want you to see the lead up to why this is an important story. Here it is.
Oh, here she comes. Round the horn. Damn. There's a water bottle right there.
And I can't show you the rest of it because I'll get a strike on YouTube. It is her using her pellet gun. We found out later, could have been any kind of gun. And she took shots at and hit Tommy Boy and other people on the streets of Portland near the ICE facility. They are well-known Trump supporters. She'd previously gotten out of her car and yelled at them and screamed at them because, well, she can do that, I guess. But you can't take shots at him. We have an update on the story. Tommy Boy,
Hello?
man. Hello? Oh, he's on the phone.
Oh.
Sorry.
No, somebody called. I didn't know I was in yet. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, you're in. I'm
Yep.
great. How are you?
I'm doing good. You know, I'm doing every day. It seems like it's getting a little bit better.
Yeah?
You know, yeah, I got my studio set up. We haven't moved yet, but I got my little area set up and got a laptop so that I could stream from home and stuff, you know.
Good for you. Good
I got
for
a
you.
new motorcycle the other day.
Look at you, Mr. I'm making money. Right
Yeah,
on.
I got a really good deal from a really good friend. Like he gave me like a really good bike for cheaper than I could have ever imagined. So I had to take the opportunity, you know, and I just got it registered and stuff today. So pretty good day so far, you know.
Well, it's a pretty good day insofar as I've been riding herd on the Portland Police Bureau, their PIO, who used to be in the news business, so in Portland. So he knows what he's doing. He knows what he says makes, it's impactful. And so I've been asking, this started right after the assault on you and your friends, what could have been an attempted murder with a gun, a pellet gun, for purposes of just bringing people up to speed. Can you just give them a short synopsis of what she did?
So it started out her driving by the first time, like maybe an hour or two before, yelling at us out of her car, you know, screaming, yelling, acting crazy. And she drove around a bunch of times and yelled at us every single time. And then the last time before she came back with the pellet gun or the BB gun, she got out of her car and was yelling in our face and smacked one of our friends' phones away. And she got pepper sprayed for hitting him, you know, and she left. And she came back about 45 minutes later or so and went around the block a couple times, and that's when you see her. That's why when in the video you see us saying, hey, here she comes, because she had already been around a bunch of times. And I was like, are you triggered? Like said, are you triggered or what? You know, and that's when she raised up the BB gun and just started blasting at us, you know. And she shot probably like 20 or 30 times. The whole time she was going around the corner, she was just popping. You could hear the airsoft of it just pop, 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 pop. And it hit me in the cheek and in my arm twice and in my cheek once. So I filed police report and pressed charges like 2 days later, because that was a very eventful weekend that weekend. So I didn't have time to do it. And so now, and this is where it's at now.
Yeah. So, okay, here's what I know. And now Tommy Boy hadn't been brought up to scratch on what was going on.
No, I try to call and ask about it, and
Right.
the DA, all they say is, oh, they have until April 18th or something like that to file charges, you know?
Yeah.
So that's the only answers that I keep getting back.
Well, that's an additional piece of the puzzle. That's good, and to have. So what I found out from Mike Benner over at the Portland Police Bureau is that the investigation's over from the police. They turned it over to the DA's office, and it is now going to be heard by a grand jury in Portland. So I've been trying to get some sort of record of her arrest, and she's not been arrested, but they have issued search warrants, and they carried out search warrants in her house and got pertinent information, including the gun.
Good. See, I didn't know any of this. Like, they haven't contacted me about grand jury or anything, and I'm the main victim. You know?
Yeah, no kidding. Oh, you should be testifying at the grand jury.
I want to 100%. So I'm going to call them. I'm going to call the DA and see if I can find out when the grand jury is, and I want to be there to speak, you know?
Right. I want you to be able to go there too.
Yes.
And they should hear from you. But here's the thing about grand juries. I mean, you've heard about they can indict a ham sandwich, and the reason that they can indict a ham sandwich is because no prosecutorial. Oh, correction. They control the entire universe of facts that come before a grand jury. The prosecutors. There are no defense attorneys involved at all. Nobody can have an attorney in there with them. And so the only attorney, you are the victim, and your part of the story actually should be the one highlighted here, because homegirl harassed you guys. You guys yelled at her. That there's no law against yelling at somebody.
No. Free speech.
She attacked you guys by knocking. She assaulted your friend. He pepper sprayed her in reply. There is nothing wrong with that. That's self-defense. So you're harmless, held harmless here. My concern, my upset with this case is that they're doing so much in the dark. If you have not been brought up to scratch on where this is, and you're the chief victim, something tells me that we've got a problem with this case insofar as she is being treated somewhat like a criminal, but a Portland grand jury, are they going to indict her? That's a question for me.
It's obvious, like by the video, like everything is live streamed from start to finish. Every interaction with her is live streamed. So from start to finish, all she had to do with the very first time she drove by was just keep driving. You know, she's not a victim in any of this.
Right.
You know, and it seems like PPB and the police out here are treating her with kids' gloves. You know, and like if it was one of us that did that,
I wouldn't want to be here, but
in jail, we would be in jail. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like we would have been in jail a long time ago.
Yes, and you'd still be there awaiting trial.
Exactly, because that's a serious crime. You know, that
absolutely
could have easily been a real weapon, and the story would have been totally different.
I agree. I mean, it would have been. It would have been obviously several degrees worse. Obviously, somebody might not have been able to walk away from the incident at all.
Nope.
But when you think about the gravity of what she did and the cavalier attitude with which she did it, and then, you're not being brought in as the victim here, and you're not being looped in, I have a problem with that. I really do.
I do too. I didn't know anything about a grand jury, and I think I'm going to call my lawyer today when we're done. And see if
Definitely.
my lawyer will get a hold of the DA and say, "Hey, my client wants to testify in the grand jury. He's the victim. I'm the one that filed the police report. So it's crazy that they haven't even tried to call me.
Yeah.
I
mean, it would be nice. I mean, considering the one-sided nature of grand juries, that the person who's the victim here, you, would be represented at the grand jury. And so, we'll see. We'll see.
And I've had to do grand juries when I worked at Metro by T-Mobile. I've had to do a grand jury for something that happened there, and they notified me. They sent me mail like well before, So you would think that I would have already gotten something in the mail.
Yeah. Well, at least
it's crazy. Some kind of communication. It's just so weird. The politics up here, the judicial system in Portland is not. It's one-sided towards the left.
No 100%. Question about it. I mean, they went to court in fighting the people who were trying to get the city to enforce its own noise ordinances, because Antifa was keeping people up half the night with all of their explosions, bullhorns, smells of gases that they were emitting, and all of that. And the city of Portland went to bat for her and the rest of the people living in those condos. Oh, no. They were in. They were they were doing it against. They were Antifa's corner. Yeah, and
they were blaming ICE. They weren't blaming the radical protesters out there, like rioters at that point. It's slowed down a lot out here, but they're still not enforcing like the noise ordinance and shit like that after 10 o'clock. The police there's not even a presence out there anymore.
Really? No, I'm not surprised. This woman says, I don't agree with what she did, and I also don't agree with government thugs in masks murdered at least 3 citizens in front of our eyes. Okay, well, there you go.
I wouldn't call it murder, but...
Right. It's not murder when there's no mens rea, if you're just doing it in self-defense, which are those, those killings, or those... You know what? I know.
It's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate, but there's fault on both sides, but it's not murder by any means.
No, it's not. And if you don't want to be shot by a police officer or any kind of officer, then don't resist arrest, and don't also try to ram your car into an agent who, by the way, is armed. Bad idea. Really bad idea.
Or be armed and try to fight with federal agents who are trying to subdue another person. You don't actively try to fight against ICE agents while you're carrying a loaded firearm and expect no consequences.
No, that's true. Well, Tommy boy, I just wanted to, check in with you. And
thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it, and I'm going to write a story for PJ Media about it. And
all right.
So I guess the takeaway for you is just what with respect to this case, your case.
It's wild because that they haven't arrested her and charged her like a long time ago to me, because I just got through dealing with the court system for having to defend myself out at ICE, and they tried everything they could to get me convicted. They weren't going to give me no other options. I got a couple of charges dismissed, and I had to plead to disorderly conduct.
Oh, that's a big one.
I shouldn't have had to plead to anything, and I still can't go back in front of ICE. They left the conditions to where I can't go back in front of ICE until I'm off of bench probation or whatever, which hopefully will be in like 6 months.
Oh, geez. That's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. And they're not doing that to the left. He's not restricting them. There's a bunch of people out there that have been in fights and been acting crazy, and they don't get none of these restrictions. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But
Oh, yeah.
me, like, they said
They
that
still
I
let
was
ICE
a
out
chief.
there. I mean,
Yep.
they still let
Still let
Antifa
'em-
out there.
Yep,
I mean, they're out
exactly.
there.
And why would a chief DA? Why would misdemeanor charges be for the chief DA? You know that like it. My case was assigned to like the highest DA with misdemeanors. You know, so that's how you know it's one sided. You know, so I really hope they do indict her, and she goes to grand jury and they indict her. And I'm going to do everything in my power to get that done.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got to be on it more. I'm going to call them. I might just do it right now before I go live myself.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. What time are you going live?
probably at like three o'clock. I was going to go live and just do an update on my
Okay.
channel too. We'll
Okay,
probably
cool.
watch this on the live, you know,
Okay. Great.
because I was going to do live at the same time, but my camera won't connect to my OBS and this at the same time. So yeah, haven't figured it all out yet.
Thank you. I appreciate you
Yeah.
coming on.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.
Thank you, Victoria. I'll
Yeah.
see you soon.
Thank
Anytime.
you. You're the most entertaining person on the street out there, actually. You really
Thank you.
are.
Yeah. Oh, this week and the next few weeks are gonna be a fun few weeks, I think. So
Oh,
everybody
really?
watch. Yeah. We got
Oh.
some plans to do some stuff. I think I'm gonna be taking a break from ice. Like it's dead unless it's on the weekend anyways. So I'm gonna start focusing my attention elsewhere, you know, other places. I just did a live yesterday at a Maxine Dexter
Oh,
speech.
yeah.
oh, oh my
I gotta
God.
go look at that one.
It was so pathetic. Yeah. And I
Jeez.
asked, they wouldn't let me ask a question. So they wouldn't give me the microphone. You know, whenever I had my hand up and stuff, they wouldn't give me a microphone. So I
course
just
not.
asked it afterwards. I was like, what's so bad about requiring voter ID? You know,
Uh-huh.
like what's the problem with requiring voter ID? You need it for everything. And they flipped out on me. You know, they all started yelling. Yeah, it was pretty entertaining. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you keep at it. You know, in Seattle area, I'm watching the free speech stuff. In California, they basically have the media cowed. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what's going on. In Oregon, they are trying to break down the walls so that they can, let's see, what's the best way to say it? They're just trying to change the rules for open meetings.
Yeah.
And in Seattle, they are designating certain people, independent reporters, as those unworthy of being allowed to cover the news at the state capitol. So you see where, yeah.
Oh,
So
I
you
gotta
see
go
where,
out there.
yep. So you see where this is going.
Yeah,
see where this
that's
is going.
restricting freedom of speech. That's restricting your First Amendment. That's illegal.
Exactly.
You know, pretty much.
Exactly. That's right. You
Well-
can't say, well, this is media. This is not. By the way, all of the people they've banned from the state capitol in Olympia, all former professional journalists, all of them. Now, if they were still working for Fox 12 or whatever it is, and Como and all these other things, they would definitely let them in. But they don't. They're independent now, and they're doing
They
great.
don't like independent journalists
No, they
because
don't.
the independent journalists are the ones that are getting out the real shit right now.
Yeah, I agree.
The mainstream media is just like it's always been, just misinformation and leading you to what they want you to believe. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Independent journalism is what is the future. You know,
I agree. I feel like there should be some, road instructions and rules of the road and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because I think some people just don't know what they're doing. But I would rather that than the alternative. So there we go. Thanks.
I don't consider myself a journalist, but just like activist who likes to record everything. You know,
that's a smart thing to do.
I'm not quite there, but I'm figuring it out.
Yeah, you are. You're doing a great job too. Thanks a lot, Tommy boy.
All right, thanks, Victoria. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
All right.
Okay. Oh, well, look, this is going to be a big story. I mean, if they let those people go, if they let that chick go, all bets are off. People are going to be pissed. Now, some of you people, let's see, they're not Antifa. They're American citizens, sick of watching people, including American citizens, being kidnapped. Where's your brain? Where's your brain? American citizens being kidnapped? American citizens are not being kidnapped. American citizens aren't even being arrested. To the extent they are arrested, they're interfering with the police and ICE. ICE is police. How do you not know that? Let's see. Ignorant. Let's see. What's this person? It's much more than an ID. No, it's not. What are you talking about? You have to show proof of birth in America to register to vote. This is talking about the SAVE Act. You have to, let's see, what else? You have to show ID to vote. There's nothing wrong with that. Ignorant. It's much more than ID. No, not much more. What part of it, Henry? Henry, what part of it do you object to? You write that down in the comments section. You got a couple of minutes, okay? What part of it do you object to? That's your assignment. She was told to step out of the vehicle. Then her wife said, drive, baby, and she should have listened to the officer. I feel so sorry for her for believing she was fighting Nazis. Well, so do I. That was terrible. These people are blind. I'm not sure to whom you're referring, but some people are. It's not like it's always been. It's not like it has always been. It is like it is now. Not sure. Where's your brain? It seems like mush. Thank you so much. I have no idea to whom you're referring to that in there. You are wrong. 188,000 kids go missing in the USA each year. Name one American kidnapped. That's a good question. They never have any answers for that one. America is a couple of continents. Oh, good. Come on, you guys. Why am I doing this? They are being detained without cause. No, that's not true. No. You can't just take somebody off the street and not have a reason for it. Obviously, they have warrants. These are the warrants you guys don't like. Sorry. I imagine there's a mistake or two in there, but no, they're not planning to do that without warrants. And they're the other kind of warrants. They're the administrative warrants, not the judicial warrants, because the people that they're rolling up are people who have already, most of them, I'll qualify it, people who have already been ordered deported. They're not American citizens. They're being detained without cause. Okay. It has happened. You are misinformed. Okay. Well, you just by all means, you write down all the info right there in the comment section. You do that. Show me the info. All right. Let's see. What else? What have I missed? I've got a list. I got my list going. Here's what I want to wrap up with. You've probably heard, all you Epstein acolytes, you know this. However, I want you, for those of you who have not heard this video, this is the video that Mike Benz put out. It is video of what operator Jeffrey Epstein was. And here he is with Ehud Barak giving him advice on how he can make money when he leaves the Israeli government. This is Jeffrey Epstein, Ehud Barak, Larry Summers is in there somewhere, the former president of Harvard and former Treasury Secretary under Barack Obama. And there's one more person involved here. But listen to this information. Mike Benz does play-by-play, and he put this on the Twitters, which is X. Listen to this.
Access we may never get again. This is an incredible audio file.
Mike Benz.
Justice.gov. I'll put the source link below.
Must follow.
210 mark. I'm just going to play this full exchange between Jeffrey Epstein and Ehud Barak. For context, now I found this from a clip that Ryan Grimm posted. He deduced that this was a February 2013 meeting between Larry Summers, Ehud Barak, and Jeffrey Epstein. For context, Ehud Barak was the head of Israeli military intelligence from 1983 to 1985. Then he became the prime minister of Israel at the same time that Bill Clinton was the president of the United States. Then he became the basically their version of the head of the Pentagon, the defense minister. He left that position in March 2013, and this is February 2013, 1 month before he leaves government office. Now, this is important because what you are about to see is a conversation between the outside fixer, Jeffrey Epstein, and the still head of Israeli military as he transitions to the private sector, and the conversations about how to create your own private business and how Jeffrey Epstein shapes this. Listening to this conversation, I think, will give you a very deep understanding of the role that Epstein plays in mediating the lucrative success of private careers for formerly government officials.
So what Tom asked me this morning...
It's Jeffrey Epstein.
Tom appears to be Tom Pritzker, who is the chairman of the Pritzker Foundation. He's the head of the Hyatt hotel chain.
Well, he was until he quit. He's J.B. Pritzker's, the governor of Illinois' cousin.
His brother is J.B. Pritzker, the governor.
It's his cousin.
He told you at Davos was he thought you should make a list of his work, not was. He said, yes, but who has IOUs to you? Is that who's out of the people in the past who you think you're close to? He said that he really wanted you to make this list of this person owes me a favor, this person owes me his life, this person owes me his job.
So what you're hearing him say, again, this is someone who led Israel's most elite covert commando unit, and then became head of Israeli military intelligence, then became the head of the country, and then became the head of its military, and is now going out on his own at the age of 71 to try to make money to convert what was government power into personal financial power. Now, it appears that Epstein played this role in the United States with CIA Director Bill Burns. It appears that he played this role in the UK. It's probably likely that he played this role with the Saudis as well.
He's a fixer, so he's making bank all over the place. Jeffrey Epstein was a fixer. He was also a person who got things done for people who needed things done, who couldn't say out loud what they were doing, but they needed financing to do it. That's exactly what it looks like he was doing. And I just want a little bit more byplay with Jeffrey Epstein and these people and Ehud Barak. And of course, Benz's play-by-play is exceptional.
After your government work.
Okay, here we go.
Now you're focused on opportunities. I need you to focus on your personal balance sheet in terms of competences. What's your real strengths? What's the liability? One of the liabilities is you're 71 years old, so you can't be in a business. It takes 20 years to make money. Yeah. You have to make money in the next 3 years. So, people, competence, things. So, I talked to Ian yesterday. I asked him to come. Yeah. He flew in from London. He's great for an hour. What was his impression from the... So, same thing. Because he's very connected to Samsung. Very. Who? Samsung. Korean. Yes. Yeah. Very. Yeah. They pay him $3 million a year. Just to make PR? Yes. He has 10 companies like that now. Okay? So, he said there's this company called Lookout. He said he mentioned it to you. L-O-O-K-O-U-T. Yeah. He thinks they'll pay you a couple $1 million to be on the board. Yeah. That would be good. I understood.
That would be good.
So Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, he's arranging a spot, a board seat for Ehud Barak. Just one of the things, an insight, and thank God for Mike Benz making sure we could see this, because it's just one of those, oh, that's how the big dogs do it. and they help each other. And so when people say that Jeffrey Epstein had Mossad ties, he probably did. I mean, was he an asset? Probably not. Was he a financier? Did he bankroll stuff for bad guys? Yep, probably. I mean, he did, actually. And so these are some of the interesting things out of the Epstein files and some of the pieces that Benz has put together, and he's just been brilliant about it, and I advise you to go follow his channel because he's exceptional. Okay. That's it. We've gone through a lot on this issue, this episode of the Adult in the Room podcast. It is Epstein Thursday. I promised I'd get to the Trump stuff today, but because I wanted you to see the Conrad Black stuff, I wanted to do that, and we'll do the Trump stuff, the connections, next week, which I'm going to spend I have to take a flight later today, and I'm going to start all of that stuff today. So anyway, my best to you. I'll see you back here on Tuesday to get the latest, probably an Iran sit-rep, as well as much, much more in the news. Have a great few days. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this episode of the Adult in the Room podcast. We do not take you for granted. We appreciate every single person who tunes in every week to listen and watch this program. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday, live streaming on Rumble, and then on every other podcast platform shortly thereafter when we can port it over and get it over there as soon as we can. All the shows can be found at victoriataft.com, where the censorship regime has been banned by me. Follow me on social media at these names: Victoria Taft, the Adult in the Room podcast, and the Victoria Taft Show. Send media inquiries, or any others for that matter, to victoria@victoriataft.com. And here's a big ask. Would you please subscribe, share, like, comment, recommend, and give this program a 5-star rating where you can? We really appreciate it. We do not take that for granted either. Follow my work at, you guessed it, victoriataft.com. PJ Media, I write tons over there. Flamingo Audiobooks, and of course the radio. I don't do this alone. This show is produced and engineered by Overall Media. 1A Cast is responsible for some of the Adult in the Room podcast's imaging. Logo design by Hageman Creative. The Adult in the Room podcast is produced at Flamingo Road Studios. All rights reserved.